Hi there, I'm going to walk you through this fun pattern called My Eye Bag. I made mine with vinyl, which you can find in my shop. Print off your PDF pattern and we're going to start with putting the pieces together. I walk you through this step by step in the PDF, but here I'm just going to show you really quick what I'm doing. I'm matching the hexagons and tape the pieces together. The final pattern does have numbered sheets in this section, so you just line up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is on the bottom. Here I'm just making my pieces a little more easy to manage and cutting out this white reflection dot that will go on top of the pupil. Now the main part here is you want to cut the outer line first. You can see it outlined in black, and then after we cut all of our appropriate pieces, then we'll cut on the grello line and cut out the white sclera part of the eye. Now I'm using my rotary cutter because I'm very comfortable with it. You can use normal scissors if that's better for you. Always do what you're most comfortable with. I'm using this glossy vinyl that's in my shop at SoHungryHippie.com because it's really wonderful to work with, and I don't have to use foam interfacing on the body pieces with this part. So we need 2 pieces for the outer body. And you can see I'm putting it on the fold and then cutting. So we've got those pieces. I'm going to set those off to the side for a second. And then cut out the pupil portion. Now I'm cutting out the reflection dot. Now before you move on to this part, cut out your lining first. I messed that up. Don't do what I do. Do what I say. So I'm cutting out the white sclera here. This will be appliqued onto one of the black main body pieces. If you do what I do and forget to cut your lining first, it's fine. I just traced around one of the black main body pieces and cut out 2 linings. It was totally fine. Now I'm cutting out the bottom panel, which I use quilting cotton and I recommend you do too. We're going to interface this with foam so that it's more rigid. As you can see here, the white pieces are the zipper panels and the black is the bottom. So baste around the edge, and I'll meet you back here in a second. Now I'm trimming it down so that it's a perfect size. I've got my edges basted. This helps me get the fabric nice and tight or taut so that I don't have puckers or wrinkles or anything going on. Now I'm going to applique the shapes, and this is the method that I use. I find the centers by folding in half. So here's the main body piece for the front, and I'm finding that center crease. Then I'm finding it for the white sclera piece. And then I'm going to match those up and make sure it's centered. Now I just hold it in place while I applique the shape on. It's not a problem. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the pupil. You must use a Teflon foot if you're sewing vinyl. If you're doing fabric, you shouldn't have a problem. I have a free vinyl sewing guide on my blog at Hungry Hippie Sews if you'd like to review that first. Here I'm marking the centers of the zipper panel because we always want to match center to center. It's hard to see on here, but this is right sides together. So right now you're looking at the foam side of one zipper panel. And I clip it to hold in the center and work my way out to each side. And then we're going to sew from one end to the other, just like the pattern says. And you're going to press it up. Make that seam allowance fold towards the zipper panel and then top stitch it. I kind of push it out and feed it through the machine. Okay, now I've top stitched, and this is the other side. We're just repeating the same exact thing. Match the centers, clip in place, and then work your way out to each side. Sew it on as the pattern tells you, and then again press out and top stitch. Here I'm just reminding you that that seam allowance is pressed towards the zipper panel. And again, I'm going to feed it through the machine and top stitch that. This helps the bag sit correctly once it's finished, so it's not a step I would skip. Now I've got the lining pieces, and we're doing the exact same thing to the lining. Now I have you interface all the lining pieces with at least SF 101 interfacing, but honestly I'm almost out of it myself, so I'm skipping that part for this demonstration. However, my bag that I carry around does have the interfacing. It does make a difference and makes it sit better, and honestly it's easier to sew. I'm using pins here since this is quilting cotton. And I will sew this on. Here I sort of push the bag so that it's easier for me to work with, and I'm placing the zipper right sides together with that exterior zipper panel, matching those top edges, and you can base that down in place if you prefer. I'm going to sew everything at once, so I'm also putting the lining right sides together, zipper is sandwiched in between, and we'll sew both layers at once for this demo. Don't be afraid to turn and push the bag out or in or whatever's most comfortable for you when sewing this. Now push the layers wrong sides together and really give that a good finger press there. We're going to top stitch that seam to hold everything in place and away from the zipper teeth. If you need to press first, do so. Just be mindful not to touch your hot iron to the vinyl directly. Okay, this is top stitched. As you can see, it looks really nice. It's going to hold that lining down and away from the zipper. And now we're going to do the other side. This is the back of the bag. Place the exteriors right sides together. You'll have to push to make it fit. There you go. Match those center creases. There you go, like I'm talking to myself. There you go, self. You're doing it. Use your clips, match center seams, and it's all the same process all over again. You see? You've got this. Now I'm adding the lining right sides together. The linings always go on right sides together, and the same process. Don't be afraid to rework how these layers are sitting against each other, to clip or reclip however many times you need. Keep in mind, this is my fourth bag by this point. Again, fold the layers so they're wrong sides together. It's going to be harder to work with now that we have two sides on, but you can do it. Just be patient. Zip or unzip, whatever makes it easier for you. I'm using a zipper that can come apart there. It's by the yard zipper, so I do find it easier to work with. This is the exterior bottom panel. And again, I'm going to find the center by folding it and then match the center on the bottom of the exterior bag. So I'm making my crease here. Center crease is matching. The diagram is in the pattern showing this as well, but it's the same process we did for the top. The curve will make some people a little crazy, but the more you do something, the easier it becomes. Keep an open mind when sewing bags. It's always a learning experience, no matter how much you think you know. At least for me it is. Note that that panel will end somewhere over the top zipper panels, and that is normal. Now in the pattern, I'm telling you where to stop and start and stop sewing on this bottom panel. Match the center crease in the bottom panel with the other side of the exterior and work your way around. And then sew this on. Pay attention to the pattern where I tell you to start and stop so that you're not sewing too far out on the ends. Now we're going to do the same process to the lining. Match center creases and pin or clip in place, and add your lining bottom panel in the same exact way. It is more of a challenge to have to push the vinyl exterior bag out of the way when you're sewing, but just take your time, take a deep breath, you can do it. This is probably the trickiest part of the pattern. You're coming in here and you're pressing these layers flat. If you sewed too far up on the ends, this will be puckered and won't be sitting flat. See, I have to unpick a few stitches here to get mine to really lay flat. And that's okay, that's normal. You also will not have as much extra on the end there sticking out like I do. I did revise how long the bottom panel was. Now we're gonna flatten, make sure your zipper is not in the way, by the way. Get that zipper head or the metal stop out of the way before you start sewing. Also lay the lining section flat. We're sewing everything at once. So I use clips and then I'm going to feed it right through the machine and sew right across here, catching all the layers. I'm going to get the other side prepped and ready at the same time so I can sew it as well. Again, just make sure you're not going to hit any metal zipper pieces when you're sewing this line across. At this point, the bag is all sewn up. We're just going to unpick a few stitches in the bottom seam of the lining so that we can turn the bag right side out. If the vinyl is giving you trouble, you can warm it with a hairdryer before turning so that it's a little more malleable. I didn't have a problem with this vinyl. So now the bag is completely together. You can take your hand sewing needle and put a few tucks in the lining to hold it down if you feel like it. This is my strap piece here, which I show you in the pattern how to make this. I'm just gonna fold it wrong sides together and then sew down each long edge and then attach it to the bag as shown in the pattern. I just want to have a little disclaimer here. I'm not going to show you attaching the strap because it is well laid out in the pattern. And I'm homeschooling and I just find myself really exhausted at the end of the day. Just follow the instructions, 4 inches from each end, and rivet or sew on as you prefer. Thanks so much for being here and for being so understanding and great. I really appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon.